class, everyone. Let's go to the next slide. So, like most days, we're going to start off with the writing prompt today. It's up on the board, so if you can pull out your journals. We're going to spend about 5 minutes doing this. You guys are only going to spend 1 minute doing it. And as always, if you run out of things to say, you can switch topics and just keep writing. Let's get to that a full half a page. And so the question for today is, when is a time in your life where someone was telling you a story that they were told from someone else? That's, secondhand information. What was the story? Did the fact that this story was related to you secondhand affect the reliability of the story they were telling? So I just want you to spend some time reflecting on this, thinking back to a story. So take a minute, and then we'll get back together as a class. Okay, just about 30 more seconds so you can finish up some final thoughts. Okay, I'm going to need 2 people to share their story with the class. Is there someone that would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Thank you.
Yeah, so in my close group of friends, there was a couple that broke up. I heard about it third hand from a friend of...
Better than second hand.
Yeah, and it turned out that a lot of the details were wrong and shed one of the members of the couple in a very unflattering light. And assuming it was true, it had a negative effect on the friendship until we had to sort things out.
Yeah, how did you find out that the information you received initially was false?
I think I confronted the person. There had been an accusation of him hitting his partner.
Oh, wow.
And
that's
so
big.
yeah, so I went back and said, hey, we've been friends for 10 years. This is surprising. And he said, it is surprising. And I had a conversation with her as well, and both of them affirmed that there had not been a domestic violence situation, just been the person.
So you went back to
I went back to the primary
source. Okay, that's great. Can I have someone else share? Don't make me use the randomizer. Yeah, Taylor?
Someone told me the story once that I think had been passed on multiple times, so who knows to what extent this is true. However, the story was that this owner had a snake, and they loved their snake, and they let the snake go everywhere around their house. It was like their pet, and the lady realized that her snake wasn't eating, and so she was getting really worried. And then the day before she took him to the vet, the snake usually curls up right next to her, but instead at night just laid its head by her head, but then stretched its body along kind of side her. She was like, this is so weird, I have to go to the vet. And the next day at the vet was like, no, your snake has been starving itself so that it can, and then last night it was sizing itself up next to you to see if it could eat you. And I hate snakes, and so someone told me the story because they had heard it once. And being scared, I automatically believed it, but then the more I thought about it, who knows how real this could possibly be.
Yeah, so you never found out whether it was true or not? So if we don't have that primary source to go back to, sometimes it might be difficult to find out if the information you received was ever true. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I had you do your reading in Chronicle of a Death Foretold. And so today we're going to dive into this idea of an unreliable narrator. But first, let's take a look at the learning target. Can I have a volunteer to read it out loud for the class? Thanks, Dominic, for volunteering.
Yeah. I will participate in an academic discussion analyzing how Marquez creates uncertainty with his use of an unreliable narrator.
Thank you so much. So, in this learning target, what do I mean by an unreliable narrator? We've touched on it briefly before, but can I have someone kind of explain it in their own words?
You can't trust him,
In what way?
because you're only getting his perspective.
Great. Yeah, so in Chronicle of Death Foretold, the information we're receiving is from a character in the novel, and that's the only perspective we're getting. But then we also find out on the first page, which you had in your reading last night, that not only are we just getting his perspective, but we're getting his perspective from the eyewitness accounts that he collected. So he gathered information from, so he wasn't actually there at the event, and then he's relaying it to us 27 years later. And so we're going to look at this quote that came on page 7. The narrator is saying, I returned to this forgotten village, trying to put the broken mirror of memory back together from so many scattered shards. So we're going to spend a little bit of time breaking down this quote and having a class discussion about it. And so what we're going to be focusing on is, what does the narrator mean by the broken mirror of memory, and this idea of scattered shards, and how Marquez is undermining the reliability of the novel in this line. Like he's telling the reader that this is a collection of something that was shattered. Like we're trying to put the pieces back together here in this chronicle. And so to jump off, we've done Socratic seminars before, so I encourage you to ask your own questions as we go along. But we're going to use what is the broken mirror of memory as our springboard today. So does anyone have any ideas on what the broken mirror of memory means? You don't have to raise your hand, just if you feel it, just start us off.
Inaccurate reflection
Of what?
of the memory. It's not complete, or it's the parts are misaligned.
And then, because it's shattered and it's misaligned, it's like distorted picture of reality.
Right.
And then the different shards implies different perspectives, maybe.
But no, that's great, yes. Any thoughts jumping off of what Dominic was saying there? So this is a metaphor. We don't have this narrator out there actually, trying to piece together a mirror of this village. So what exactly is the narrator trying to do?
Maybe it's an identity issue.
Can you explain?
I think that the memory revolves around a certain person, the main character, I'm assuming. And the broken mirror is usually a reflection. A mirror is something that we reflect and can see ourselves. But it's broken because maybe there's an identity issue and then a memory that's maybe something happened in the past.
That's an interesting thought, and I think we'll all discover as we read further in this text that we get an interesting perspective on the main character's identity. Santiago de Ser, the man who is killed in our Death Foretold, is a great friend of the narrator, and so you saw last night in how the narrator describes him that we might be receiving even a biased description of this character because they were such good friends. But then on page 13, I had you look at that page and the issues of sexual assault there that came from the main character. And the juxtaposition of those two images, we get this great, like, this is a main character. This is a great man. Everyone was looking up to him. He was young, handsome, was making his fortune. And then basically right on the next page, you know, he's sexually assaulting one of his housemates. And so it's like some of these facts don't line up. So how does that play into this idea of a broken mirror or these scattered shards? Or maybe you want to jump in on this next question. Can this mirror ever be put back together after it's broken, if we're, you know, extending this metaphor?
It almost gives me a sense that it's dangerous to try and put it back together with sharp shards, and that in the process you might end up actually hurting, you know, yourself or your memories of this person. I don't know.
Even when you put a mirror back together, there's always going to be seams. So you can never completely put something back together again once it's broken like that.
Let's jump off that right there. What kind of image are you looking into if you took a mirror and actually like put it back together after it's broken?
Well, if you were to look at yourself in that broken mirror, like you yourself would be put into different sections. Like you wouldn't see yourself holistically. And so that's maybe why I was wondering, kind of going off both of that, maybe the scattered shards, maybe there wouldn't be full pieces that were fully back together because maybe they couldn't remember something fully.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just seeing like this distorted image coming back. It's like not the same image it would be before. So I think that's going to be playing a major role in this novel. And one more question would be, you know, we saw that this is information that's 27 years old. So how long, this is a question for you guys to discuss amongst yourself, how long would it be for it to be too long, for like memory to be reliable? Like what's that limit?
I don't think memory is ever really reliable. I mean, first-person accounts are not usually considered the gold standard anymore. You need to have more than one perspective that lines up, in my opinion.
Any responses to that? Maybe from someone we haven't heard their voice today?
I agree with that because every perspective, if I have a memory of what happened yesterday, I'm still biased to what happened yesterday. I think you have to have multiple viewpoints for it to be a full picture of what happened.
Anyone else?
How do we know it's true?
Exactly, that is the big problem of this. So that's why, as you guys are going to be doing your journaling assignments and keeping track of the characters as you encounter them and what they're saying about the main character, you got to look for those discrepancies. I've mentioned the weather before. It seems like every character you meet is either saying it's raining or it's not raining. So it's like, what does that mean? Does that, you know, what are they trying to say about the main character based on that? So we're going to be diving into that. But before we're done today, I just want to jump back to the learning